Cory is a senior columnist and host at the Western Standard. He's a regular contributor to the Epoch Times. He's also the author of a book. It's called The Sovereigntist Handbook. And I promised him that Regina would buy a full case of books, and you're halfway there, so make sure you get your book on the way out the door. From his early days founding the Alberta Independence Party to his current role as the leading voice for Western autonomy, Cory's never shied away from calling out federal overreach and championing the cause of a free and self-reliant West. Please welcome Cory Morgan.
What did it turn out? Saskatchewan's showing us how it's done. And thank you. We got to update that flag, though. But it's funny, starting with the culture. And part of what I was looking forward to tonight, you don't need another person from another province telling you what to do. You guys know what you want to do, what you need to do. That's why you're here. But listening to Blanchette say there's no culture or unidentified one, that's only what people who've never left their own province could say. Anybody who's driven across this country knows that every province, every region has distinct cultures with good and bad aspects to all of them. But it really shows a lot about the disrespect and contempt that some people in central Canada hold towards us. Could you imagine a Western public figure trying to imply Quebec's a culture not worth identifying or speaking about? No, it'd be unimaginable, and it would be rude. We shouldn't do that. We'd have our problems with Quebec, but we can't deny they have a culture. But they feel they can do it with us. That's one of the things that's interesting, too. If somebody hasn't traveled, and it shows a lot with our, as they call themselves, Central Canadians. If you look on a map, actually, Manitoba is the center of Canada. But Torontonians figure they're the center of the universe, and we know that. And it's been said a long time. If it's outside of what you can see from the top of the CN Tower, it doesn't matter. And that reflects their attitude a lot. A lot of people think that perhaps there's bitterness from Ontarians or Quebecers towards the West, but actually, guys, it's worse than that. They're indifferent. They don't think about us at all. I'd almost rather they got angry with us. But no, we are a side note. We're just a colony to tax, drain, and feed their central Canadian agenda. And yes, we're getting to a tipping point where we've had enough. But we got to watch the barbs, we got to watch the attacks. As I said, it gets frustrating when you see somebody like Blanchette saying something like that, as insulting as it is. But our issue isn't with the people of Quebec. It's not with the people of Ontario or Newfoundland or Lower Mainland BC. It's the system. That's where we got to kind of refocus and remind ourselves. Canada's system is broken. It's a system that was built to serve central Canada, and even our Western representatives tend to fall in with that system once they get out there. That's why I can't stand it when I see a good friend run to be a member of Parliament. Why send another good person out there? Ruin them. But that's what happens. They get, the old term I think Preston Manning used to use, auto-washed. And there's some truth to it. The Jason Kenney, the reformer of the 1990s, fantastic, hardworking, outspoken. The Jason Kenney of today, who's calling us yahoos. Come on, Jason. But things change when you're out there for a while. But what we've got here tonight, and this is, again, magnificently packed room, are people who already know. That's why you're here tonight. You know the current path hasn't been working. It hasn't been serving us. We need to examine new ways. We need to look to get out. What I want to talk about more then is the how, because that's the harder part. We know where we want to go, but we got to figure out how we're going to get there. And that's where I'm not talking at you, but we can share experiences and resources with each other. Because speaking of cultures, if there's any culture that's the closest to Alberta, it's Saskatchewan. I mean, we're siblings in this whole agreement moving forward. And we're more powerful walking together than apart. But at that same time, if we're talking about independence, and if we're talking about following the pathway set in front of us with the Clarity Act and a referendum, that does mean each province has to hold their own. And that only makes sense. Albertans shouldn't be voting on Saskatchewan's future any more than Torontonians should be voting on ours. But we have the same goals, we have the same path, we have the same mechanism, but we have the same struggles in getting there. And we really need to build that base to build that. So just after the election, I just on a whim did a YouTube video. It was kind of basically noting a part out of my book. And insane, because Alberta used to have this terrible citizens initiative referendum legislation. You'd have to get 600,000 signatures on a paper petition in 90 days. You know, we're talking full name, full address. It was impossible. It was not going to happen. That was the point of making it that way. So I put a video out that morning saying, this is the first thing Albertans have to do is fix this legislation. We've got to make it reasonable and achievable. And it was really, actually that afternoon, Premier Smith, and I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't. She announced she's got Bill 54. They're going to change it so that the bar was now set to 10% of those who voted in the election rather than 20% of those eligible, which brought it down to 177,000. Realistically, you'll need 200,000. Very big task, but achievable. And now there's groups and people hard at work building the base so that they'll be able to do that when the time comes. Now in Saskatchewan, you're very much in the same position. And Nadine, I'm certain, will speak to that. And she's been working hard on getting that together. And what you've got is a legislation that allows for a non-binding plebiscite, which is just a poll. You might as well hold a poll. And the bar, again, is set based on those eligible to vote rather than those who came out to vote. So I hope and think, because Premier Scott Moe has been very outspoken for your province, and he's been doing a good job. He wasn't elected on an independence mandate. Either was Daniel Smith in Alberta. And that is why, because some people are saying they should come out fully in support of it. Well, hang on, that it was not what they were elected on. They'll stick to what they do. Just give us the mechanism. Put it in the hands of the citizens. We'll take it from there. You guys don't have to. And that's how Premier Smith did it. She hasn't said, and she's getting accused of it anyways, she hasn't said she supports Western independence. She's just said, I will respect the will of the Albertan voters in a referendum, and I'm giving them the ability to do it. That's what Premier Moe needs to do for you guys here. So that's where, in my view, the pressure you need to put on Premier Moe is just fix the legislation. You don't have to worry about getting him to come out and demand independence from Ottawa. Don't worry about that. You guys do that. But you got to get that tool in your hands. And then to do so, there's a lot of steps. We got a long ways to go.
Hey, what do you think about Alberta independence? What do you think about Alberta trying to get a better deal within Canada? Do you think Alberta should have the right to vote in a referendum to separate, the same way Quebec did? There's a lot of things to talk about. Can Canada be fixed, or has the West tried that, done that, been there, and it's just not working? Well, we're going to talk about all these things in an amazing day-long conference in Red Deer, the heart of Alberta, on Saturday, June 14th. Go to donegetingscrewed.com to get your tickets now. It's going to be a full day. We'll start with a continental breakfast. We'll have panel discussions. We'll have keynote speakers. We'll even have a debate. I think that's going to be the highlight of it. David Legg, former advisor to the Alberta government, is going to make the case for Canada. Keith Wilson, lawyer, freedom activist, he was with the Freedom Convoy. He'll be making the case for independence. We'll have other people in the debates, a media panel, and people of different points of view, including different political parties. There's going to be a bit of a trade show there too. So we'll serve you 2 meals, but more than that, we'll serve you ideas you just can't get anywhere else. But it's coming up quick, and I promise you this event will sell out. There's only room for 1,000 people. And I know that there have been 1,000-person meetings about this subject all over the province. In fact, we had an event in Calgary that sold out in 2 days when we had only 350 seats. So don't be disappointed. Go to donegetingscrewed.com and get your tickets now. I'll be there. Sheila Gunn-Reid will be there. So many interesting people. Our friends in other media companies like Western Standard, Juno News, and Countersignal. It's going to be a great day. That's Saturday, June 14th in Red Deer, Alberta, all day long. Go to donegetingscrewed.com to get your ticket now. Don't wait. I don't want you to be locked out. It's going to be full. See you there. That's donegetingscrewed.com.
In Alberta, we've got the counterpart of Carla Back with Naheed Nenshi, former mayor of Calgary. Special man. He hates citizens' initiatives. His big crowning achievement as mayor of Calgary was to hold the Olympics there. He was going to spend billions to bring a vanity project of the Olympics to Calgary. And one thing, I'll give credit to Rachel Notley, the only thing I think, at the NDP in Alberta, but she said, you know what? If the government's going to fund an Olympic bid, we're going to put it to the citizens of Calgary in a plebiscite. And the citizens told Nenshi to take his Olympic dreams and roll them up and stuff them up somewhere. So he hates referenda. He hates letting people have a choice. Yet, ironically, just this morning and recently, what he's been saying publicly, he's been calling on Smith saying, let's hold the referendum right now then. Let's do it right now. It's because he knows it would fail right now. I mean, whatever he is, he's not stupid. He's not principled, but he's not stupid. And he knows if the trigger is pulled on that thing right now, the organization isn't there, the support isn't there yet, and if it came in with 20%, 25% support in a referendum, you're not going to get another chance for 5 or 10 years. In Saskatchewan, as Nadine, again, will certainly attest, Carla Beck's been working more hard on just saying we shouldn't even give you guys the means, the ability, the right to vote on it. Not countering the case or the argument for independence, they're just saying you aren't even allowed to vote on it. But they will evolve, I think, when it becomes real that there's going to be a vote here no matter what. And they'll move more along the lines of Naheed and say, let's pull the trigger then and blow this thing up while we can. But they understand it's real. Something real is happening. Giving a bit of my background, I wrote the Sovereigntist Handbook. And the reason I did that, and I put it out a couple of years ago, I founded the Alberta Independence Party back in 2000 when I was 29 years old. I was a weird young man. And we made a lot of waves at that time and then blew up, much of it due to my own inexperience and leadership, and a lot of us, and just the nature of independence movements. We're a prickly bunch. But I learned a lot. And I worked a lot with the Wild Rose Party and other things throughout the years after that. So I thought, you know what? I want to get all those mistakes into one book, and so that people can read that and then find a whole bunch of new mistakes to make. Because there's never anything wrong with a mistake. Repeating mistakes, that's the problem. So I've shared that, and I'm sure there's more to be made, but eventually you're going to run out of mistakes and you're going to get the job done. And that's why we work with each other, we talk with each other, we organize. So what has to be done now, though? I mean, step by step, similar to Alberta. A lot of it's in the hands of Ottawa. Over time, as things get worse, as people realize the elbows up crowd hiding out there in Regina and Saskatoon, wow, even for them, nothing changed. Nothing got better. The dollar kept devaluing. Their pensions still look bleak. The cost of living is still terrible. We got to be there to capture that discontent and direct people towards something positive then. And that's the other part I spoke on recently. It's easy to campaign against something, especially when they give us so much to campaign against. But, and I forget the quote I used on a video the other day, but Ayn Rand put it out, but said, no movement has ever been successful working against something. You got to work towards something. So we've got to build that. We've got to build it ourselves. We've got to build it in our own networks. We've got to build it with our friends, families, coworkers, people at the bar, people at the hockey game, and talk positively. What is the day after independence going to look like? Why is it going to be better? And it can be. This is a culture of freedom. This is a culture of workers. This is a culture of individualists who still love to stand up for their neighbors. There's a lot positive. But it needs to be in a system that entrenches the ability, the freedoms to be able to do those things, the ability to fully take advantage of your resources so you can have the lifestyle and your children and grandchildren can look forward to that as well. Because this should be the richest place on the planet. And when you look at our GDP per capita, it's bloody embarrassing. But it's all there. It's there. We've got that, but we've got to get it together. We've got to organize. Petitioning is tough. And then when a referendum comes, you're on to a whole new campaign. It's never been done. We're in a new period of history for all of Western Canada. There's never been an independence referendum in Alberta or Saskatchewan, which I think is awesome, a great time to be living in, but it also means we don't know what the hell to do. As Ezra said, we should be looking at other movements too, see what worked for them, see what didn't. We're at the educational point of this. People are ready. This room is great, as I said, but there's a whole lot of work to do. We've got the environment, we've got the ability, we've got the future, but we've got to organize, get the means. We've got to figure out when the time comes, how are we going to get that tipping point of supporters? As I said, the opponents know it's not there yet. That's why they want to pull the trigger. And it's going to come fast. In Alberta, it might be early 2026. It's going to be a tough task to bring it over a clear majority into 50% by then. But once that clock's ticking, then you got to go for it. So one of the first steps is getting together at a place like this tonight, sharing with each other, learning from each other, organizing, finding that path, finding out what's not going to work, but of course, most importantly, finding out what's going to work. So a lot of what I'm looking forward to tonight too as well is listening. You know, in Alberta, I'm used to the rooms. I know what the local issues are, and I know they're very similar here, but I'm certain there's a lot of things happening out here that I haven't thought of. So I'm really looking forward to the Q&A aspect and hearing from you guys and talking to you after the formal bloviating from us is finished as well. So thank you for your time, and I'll let things move along and looking forward to the Q&A.